Save the children.
I'm Alan Volz. I'm running for the Walton Verona School Board. I grew up in Erlanger, Kentucky. Graduated from Lloyd High School in 1981. Went to Eastern Kentucky University. Have a major in industrial technologies and minor in business. From there, I went into work with technology, audiovisual technology, security technology, and have spent about the last 30 years in there. I've been a manager, designer, salesperson, all of that. My current role is global program manager, so we roll out teams, collaboration rooms for different customers globally, and I manage a global team of those people who support the supply chain and get those rooms out. I've been married, and Lisa and I moved to this area in 2004, so we've been in this area for 18 years. We have 3 kids who have graduated from the school district: Kate, Mark, and Luke. Kate's finished up at Northern and started her career. Luke and Mark are finishing up at Northern this year. And Jared, our youngest, is a junior at the high school. So what got me interested in running for the school board was during COVID. I think all parents got a little closer to what's going on in education during COVID, and seeing things like the online classes and the syllabuses that had a lack of information on what was being taught, and then dealing with the shutdowns and the mask mandates. And when we finally went back to school at Walton, and then we went back with masks, and I felt passionately that the masks were not proven effective, but even if they were effective, they're ineffective in an educational environment. You can't learn to read. You can't communicate with teachers with your face covered, because so much of what people learn and so much of the way people communicate is through facial expressions. You know that people understand what you're talking about by the expression they make, that they're shaking their head, or they're smiling, or their eyes and their facial expressions. And this is part of the technology we deploy for teams. Is the reason they want a Teams meeting is so you can see the person. You may be thousands of miles away, but you want to see the person and say, okay, here's the instructions. And okay, I see that you grasp, or maybe I sense you have a question and you're just not raising your hand, so I can reach out to you. And that is the value, 100% value of in-person learning. And that's what our educational system is built on, is in-person learning, that teacher being able to engage those students. That's what works. And with a mask, you take it away. When you shut down school, you take it away. When you go to online, you take it away. For a snow day or for a temporary, it works. For months on end, for years, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. So that's where I got engaged. And the more I was engaged, the more I realized that the board, when you go to speak to the board, you speak to the board and they ignore what you say, and it's like talking to a wall. And there's no real transparency. So there's no effort to help parents, draw parents in, to lean into parents, to help parents understand these are the issues in our school district. And this is how we're going to try to deal with them and try to seek input. So in my pillars, I talk about transparency and parental involvement. And those are the things from a syllabus that directs the parents on what the child will be learning during the year, to simply the board saying, okay, these are the issues. These are the forward-looking issues we have. We want parental input on those. Because, in all honesty, when I get to the board, I'm not going to have all the solutions. That'd be very prideful to say that. I don't. What I would do is I would seek the advice of the experts, the parents. Parents know, the parents will have the ideas. I have ideas of my own that I want to implement, but I don't want to shut out the other ideas that could be better than mine. Too much of what goes on in politics now is a person gets elected and okay, now I'm just going to drive the bus from here on out. I'm going to listen to the passengers. So here we go. We're going to go like this together. So that's transparency, parental involvement, just touching on these. And then, the core of that is student achievement. The parents are the guiding light in that as well. And we have to, when we get to fiscal responsibility, allocate those resources to student achievement. This past school year, the superintendent got a big raise during COVID. And the problem is that raise does not benefit any students. It doesn't benefit any teachers. It benefited one person. And it was a lot of money. And how could those resources have been spent better to meet the goals of the school, which is high student achievement? They meet the goals of the parents, which is their kids getting like basic education, reading, writing, math, those types of things. So when you get to that level, that's really what you're talking about, is looking at how those resources, how is that directly benefiting the student and possibly the teachers, but least of all the administrators, because they're not directly involved in the educational process. So that's kind of my philosophy. That's why I'm interested in the school board position. And that's a little bit about my background.
So I'll just touch on what I read the other day.
Yep.
A statement from CDC. If states adopt the CDC's recommendation, children will be required to get the COVID shot to attend school, enter daycare, participate in sports, and more. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm 100% against vaccine mandates. Again, this gets into parental involvement, but it's parental rights. The parents have the right to administer the health of their children, period. That the CDC is an advisory board. They do not set policy. Parents can take that recommendation, take the advice from the CDC, and make their own decision. So the school board, the state, no one should mandate that to a parent, 100%. And that goes for any mandate. That would go for the mask mandate as well. If the CDC wants to put out a guideline to wear masks, so be it. The school board can decide whether that fits into the school or not, but it really is a parent decision. It's the parents who should decide. If your student needs to be vaccinated, that's the parent's decision. If you decide students don't need to be vaccinated, that's the parent's decision. And that's what should be respected by the school board.
Well, especially since it's Walton, I feel like we should touch on the tax issue for the schools, since everyone's in the midst of paying their property taxes. And the price of homes has gone up. And I know that Walton in particular has a higher tax rate on the schools. Where you stand on the taxing, if that's something that you'd be interested in rolling back if you're on the school board.
I'd be very interested in rolling it back. I would not be interested at all in raising it at any point. And that gets to how you allocate those resources. I mean, they're scarce resources. There's a limited budget, but you have to focus the dollars to the first core competency of the school, which is basic education. And all the dollars every dollar you spend should somehow be tied to how does it benefit the students and their student achievement. But I'm not interested in higher taxes. If we maintain a higher tax rate and not raising it, if we're not able to lower it, then my expectation would be we would have the best school in the county, but not just the county, in the state. We should then raise our expectation of the achievement that we're going to provide, student achievement. So right now we're going down. So that's not the right direction. We should be going up so that we're the best school in the state. And 4 years from now, there's people in Boone County and Grant County and Gallatin County and Kenton County clamoring to get into Walton Verona School because it's the best school in the state. That would be the only justification to have higher taxes than the rest of Boone County.
Are you at all familiar with how much your school district is spending on social emotional learning and programs purchased that are online? And the reason I ask this is because what we're finding and what has been known for a while is that these online programs do not align with state standards as far as curriculum, and they're not really reviewed before they're used. and they're not run by our school districts. They're run by the companies who put the programs out. But I know that we're spending a ton of money on these particular programs.
To answer your question, I do not know how much is spent. I've never done a FOIA request or anything like that. Back to my earlier point is that the budget's discussed in the meetings, but at a very 30,000 foot level. It's, hey, we've got the numbers, they align and so much. There's no deep dive into here's how much we're spending on curriculum and so forth like that. So I do not have those details, but that's part of, if I'm on the school board, that's part of what I'm going to dig into further. If I'm not on the school board, which, I'm 100% working to get on the school board, then I'll fight that battle from the outside as well. But for now, my hope is to get on the school board and fight that battle from the inside.
Are kids on Chromebooks at Walton Verona?
Correct. And I don't know where that starts grade-wise, to be honest with you. It started at COVID, and I'm pretty sure middle school through high school. I don't think, I'm not sure about the elementary school just because I don't have kids there.
You have a friend that has a third grader there, and she said she is not on the Chromebook.
Okay, yeah. Could well be, yeah.
So the transgender LGBTQ plus agenda, it's to confuse kids. It's another way to divide us. It keeps us distracted from underlying issues at hand, like portrait of a graduate, or now I'm seeing profile of a graduate. They're just rebranding it, which is what they do. Social emotional learning, aka critical race theory, sexualizing children, data mining of children through tech. What are your thoughts about that transgender LGBTQ plus agenda?
I'm 100% against that agenda. If I had a nickel for every gender there is in the world, I'd have 10 cents. That's it. There are two. There's men and women. So from bathrooms to sports, it absolutely must be kept separate. And then the whole social construct of it has to be weeded out of the school. The whole idea of pronouns and discussion around, you could be this or you could be that. I'm a man, but my identity is who I am. It's more than just that, so to try to wrap your whole child's identity around that and then make these decisions it just doesn't make sense. And when you read KDE's website, you see they've got this program about a partnership, family partnership. And my concern with that is, while it's all flowery language and it sounds really nice, my concern with that is that is an invasion into parental rights. Like I said before, it is absolutely critical that each individual parent have their own rights to make their own decisions on how to raise their own children. So when you talk about things like that, then you're talking about portrait of graduate, those types of things. You're talking about a situation where I take my phone away from my son for a punishment of some right. They go to school, teacher empathizes with them, and then all of a sudden we're headed some other direction. Teacher and the school feel like, we don't have to communicate that back to the parents. What we're doing, we're just undermining the parental. And it absolutely has no place in the school. There's all the test scores show we're going down. We've got to refocus on education and get out of the business of parenting. The school is not a parent. They cannot replace the parents. They cannot replace psychologists or doctors or any of that stuff. And that's all comes through the parents. The other point I want to make about this is the current board, and if I'm elected to the future board, it will never come up as a 5-3 vote to, yes, we're going to do critical race theory, 3 votes. It will never come in the front door. It's all coming in the back door. What's important to know is that as I go around to parents, some people are like, well, it's not in our school. And some people are like, we need to keep it out of our school. Most people 100% against it. But there's just an awareness of whether it's already there or not already there. It's already there. It's coming in, it's coming through the back door, and it'll take some due diligence to root it out. In other words, it won't be a 3-2 vote on a Thursday night somewhere where we say it's all coming out. It will be due diligence. because it's coming in through KDE, it's coming in through all these other sources. Take it out one day, it'll be back the next day. And like you said, they just rebranded. And so it's going to take some hard work and it's going to take due diligence to get this out. So when I talk about that and I'm opposed to it, I don't have any illusion that that is going to be an easy or a short-term process. It's long-term and it is going to be a fight, to be honest with you.
Agree. I just feel like they're trying to get rid of that family unit. Another way to divide us.
Yes. Yeah. All of that is to divide us. From the vax to the mask to the, I have friends who, feel differently about the mask. And, it's just a simple thing. And, it's just divides you. And it's all meant to divide us, and we're easier to control when we're divided. And that's what it is, unfortunately.
Thank you for running.
Oh, you're welcome. It helps to get that encouragement. I get that encouragement occasionally when I'm out talking to people, and that kind of spurs you on when you're tired of walking, tired of knocking on doors.
What are you hearing from parents when you're knocking on doors?
Yeah, and a lot of parents in this district take great pride in this school, and they should. It's been a great school for a long time, but there is a lot of concern about the issues that we've talked about. When I say parental involvement and talk about those things, they're all in. When I say, more education, less indoctrination, they're all in. It's like, yeah, exactly. The school is there to educate. The rest is there for the parents, and the rest of the community has their role, doctors and psychologists, and so forth. So a lot of good things like that. And then there's just a lot of concern around taxes. Our taxes are high. Our school, while it's a good school, take great pride in it, it could do better. And if we're going to charge people higher taxes, then we absolutely got to set that goal higher, and we've got to push hard to get to a higher level of achievement.
So Alan, how can people follow you or learn more about your campaign?
We have a website. The website is www.volz, wvschoolboard.com. And you can email me directly at Alan at that URL, volz4wvschoolboard.com. We have a Twitter page, which is at Volz4WV Board. And then we have Facebook, which is Thomas Allen Volz for Walton Verona School Board.